So let's talk pricing. Before we map out your entire curriculum, we're going to decide how much you want to charge, because by knowing the value of the program, like I mentioned, you're going to be better placed to craft your offer accurately. I'm going to show up a whole lot differently to craft a $300 offer versus a $3,000 offer, right? Those are going to look like two really different programs. So like I mentioned, I want to work backwards from my goals, and I encourage you to do this too. So if my goal is I want to make $10,000 with my first launch, well, let me figure that out. What does my course need to be priced at, and how many students would I need to get in order to hit that $10,000? So you can see here, if I had a $97 course, well, I'm going to need 103 students. And 103, unless you have a really big audience, 103 is a big number. That's a lot of people, right? Versus, even 20 people at $497 to hit that 10K. Well, 20 is sounding a whole lot more reasonable than 103, especially if we consider I'm not going to go into this too much today, but when you're thinking about your overall audience size, an industry average conversion rate is 1 to 2%, meaning 1 to 2% of your audience will buy your offer, assuming the audience is your ideal target audience, right? And that's industry average. The students that come in and work with me inside of Course Creator School, we tend to see more like 5%. I've even had as high as 25% when some of my students have hosted a webinar and they've had a 25% conversion rate on their webinar. That's like crazy and unheard of when industry standard is 1 to 2%. But if we were going to, let's say we're going to take 5% as a pretty good baseline. Well, if you have 75 people on your email list. Let me do that math really quickly. 75 times 5%, that's not even 4 people, right? Buying your offer. And so you need to be really clear on what's realistic here, given the size of your current audience. So this all relates back to that profit early model that I talked about before, which is really, if you want to profit early, it's better to go higher ticket and layer in things like mini offers or, just lower priced things later on, once you've already got a higher ticket offer in place. Because as we can all imagine, it's way easier to get 10 students into a program than to try and get 103, right? Let's go back to that. We could have 10 students at $1,000 a pop, gets us our 10,000 versus that 103. And we want to be realistic given our current audience size. So I know everybody in here right now is coming from such a variety of where they're at in their business. You might already have a really thriving audience, but if you don't, obviously you're going to be able to be profitable faster if you come up with a higher priced offering. Is that making sense, guys? Okay, so much good stuff in the chat here about your goals for your first launches. So I'm seeing 2K, 5K, 5 to 10K, another 2K. Yeah, this is 1,600, 10K, 3K, 2K, 7,500 to 10. Such great. See how that's all in that. We basically all landed in that 2 to 10K range, which is why it is so important to kind of work backwards from that and think about the number of students and the pricing of our offer. So let me dive into now some questions to help you narrow in on your pricing, and we don't want to just pluck a price out of thin air or work backwards from our goal, but not actually have anchored that pricing into kind of the reality of what our offer is in the current marketplace. So question number 1 I want you to ask yourself is, what's the one main big problem that my course solves for people? And you should have done this yesterday in day 2 of prep school. And why this matters is because the more profound that change is, remember how we talked about the transformation and how student comes into our program over here, is feeling this kind of way, and then they go through our program, and then there's an after state. If that change is really profound, the more you can charge, the higher ticket you can go with your pricing. Here's the next question. How deeply is that problem felt, right? That problem that your course is solving. Is it a pressing, immediate need for people to solve? Are they struggling with it every single day? Is it something that is weighing on them? Because the deeper or more quote unquote painful, again, I don't love that terminology. I need to come up with a different word to use here, but the more deeply it's felt and the more immediate that need is, the more you can charge, right? A good example here would be, if your program is like in the wellness space or something like that, and it's for people to, maybe it's for people to like lose weight and feel more energetic, feel healthier. And if that is, obviously we can imagine that's something that might be an extreme obstacle for someone every single day. If they're really struggling with their body in terms of it not, maybe it's actually giving them physical pain, or they're not able to keep up with their day as they wish they could. It's sort of like this cloud over their life every single day. Well, they're going to be much more willing to pay more money to solve that problem because it is so pressing for them, as opposed to a nice to have, right? So that might be like, for instance, I would love for my daughter to be doing piano lessons, and I would totally buy an online course for her that taught her some intro to piano, right? But that's not like something that is weighing on me every single day and is a big painful problem for us. It's more of like, it's like an itch I'd like to scratch, for lack of a better, descriptor, right? It's a nice to have. I would like to buy that for her, but I'm not going to be dishing out a gajillion dollars for it because it's not a super painful problem. I'll still pay for it, but it has to be within the range of, of the pain point. If anybody has a better terminology that I can use for pain point, I am all ears, by the way. Okay, question number 3. Is it in the big 3 of profitable niches? And so the big 3 tend to be health, wealth, and relationships. And if it is within one of those 3 niches, then typically we can charge more for our programs because these are the areas where people are willing to spend more money. And the reason is because typically these 3 things are the most kind of immediate pressing things that we experience on a day-to-day basis, right? We are very, health problems are very much in our everyday world, right? I'm currently dealing with, I fairly recently got diagnosed with something called SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, something that I've had for decades. And I have had countless appointments and seen different doctors about all the symptoms I was having for years and years and years, and only finally just got a diagnosis. Well, I am now willing to jump into any program that I find about SIBO so I can learn more and improve my health because I want these symptoms gone. It is something that I deal with on a daily basis, right? I'm very willing to spend money to feel better. Same thing with wealth, whether it's like something to do with making more money or saving more money, right? Those are obviously very big, like anything to do with financial, a growth is going to be highly sought after, and people are willing to pay more for that, especially because they can see an immediate return. If you're going to teach me how to, make thousands of dollars because of making a change in my life or my business, or you're going to teach me how to save money and I can see the clear ROI of taking your program, well, it becomes a really easy decision for me, right? To pay for your program when I see the return on investment that's going to come from that. And then relationships, same thing. They tend to be, that's our everyday thing, right? If I'm, say, experiencing a lot of difficulty with my partner, I am going to be looking for a program that can help us through that. Or if I'm experiencing, some challenges in parenting, I'm going to, again, be much more willing to pay more money for something that I believe is a true solution if it's like an everyday problem. So I'd love to know in the chat, for those of you who are here, does your course fall into one of these three niches? And if so, which one? I'd be really curious to hear more. Affliction. Oh, I like that, Jan. Okay. Lizzie saying her program will be accessible to expecting parents. Oh, Taryn, you're saying I have trouble asking for higher ticket prices as working with fertility clients. They're already struggling with the cost of IVF. Well, that's fair. Another thing you could always do is have a payment plan. Mandy saying, isn't it harder to convert a higher ticket offer though? Surprisingly, Mandy, it's not. It's just as hard to sell someone, and conversion rates tend to be similar for low ticket versus high ticket. And I've seen that across many niches. So it's really interesting. It's more about as long as you're positioning your program in the right way and demonstrating the value that it's going to have, it's just as easy to sell a high ticket. Okay, we've got wealth, health and relationships, wealth, health, career progression. That would fall into wealth for sure. Yep. Health, lots of health. Awesome. More relationships. Okay, great, guys. That's really great. Okay, then question 4 is, if someone were to solve that problem, like let's say someone wants to go and solve that problem that your course is going to provide the solution to, if they could hire it out as a one-to-one service, how much would that cost them? So understanding that is important, because if you know it's generally going to cost, say, $2,000 to have that problem solved in a one-to-one capacity, and then your program comes in at $1,000, it's obviously a more affordable option for them to do it in that way. And this is where, if you are someone who's a service provider, again, we're thinking of our course as being like the more inexpensive way for someone to still get to work from you and learn from you, but doesn't have to pay the one-to-one prices. So an example here would be, I worked with a student who was a copywriter, and she had been doing copywriting for a while. She was booking out her services. She was able to now charge a lot more than when she first started, because she became a very successful, very good copywriter. And now she was able to then also put a course in here to create a leverageable asset to grow the revenue in her business, because not everybody could afford to hire her to, say, write their sales page now. And so she created a course around that. That was a much more affordable option, because having a really good copywriter write your sales page can be like $5,000. So think about that for your particular niche as well. Question number 5 is, what is it costing my customer or my potential customer not to solve that problem? So if they don't get the answer for themselves, if they don't get the results or the solution, what is that costing them? And that might be costing them in time, it might be costing them in money, and it might be costing them in something like frustration. And the more it costs in any of those things, not just money, the more you can charge for your program. So let's go back to the example of me with my daughter and the piano lessons. Is it costing me a lot not to solve that problem? Well, not really. I would love for her to become more musical, but it's not a giant, I'm not gonna, doesn't have any of these things. It doesn't cost me really anything in time, money, or frustration. It's more of that nice to have, right? Whereas, what is it costing me not to solve my SIBO? It's costing me a lot. It's costing me pain every single day in my gut. It's costing me me having to lie down after dinner every night because I'm having horrible pain in my stomach. That's not a monetary cost, but it sure is a cost in terms of like my well-being. And I'm going to want to pay to solve that problem because that is actually costing me a lot in my day-to-day life. So you see where I'm getting at with this question? And this is also important because you're going to be able to take this and you're going to use some of this in your sales page, in your marketing, when you're talking about your course, because this is how you position your course or program and really demonstrate the value for someone, the value for them to say, yes, oh my gosh, I would love to pay you $1,000 for you to help me solve this problem so that I can, feel better, get back more time, stop being frustrated, save money, make money, whatever. Okay, and then question 6, this is kind of in line with the last one, but question 6 is, does my customer save money by solving this problem? And if they do save money by solving this problem, obviously you can charge more. And get really specific about that. How much money are they going to save? How are they going to save it? What does that look like? Describe that for me so that I, as the potential customer, am really understanding this. Because now, again, it is helping me to really see the value in your program. Is this making sense, guys? Did all of those questions give you a much better sense of what you need to be asking yourself in order to put a price on your program? Because unfortunately, there isn't like a one-size-fits-all formula. Nobody can just say to you, yes, okay, enter X and Y, and we're going to spit out Z, and that's the price of your program. It's a bit of a dance. It's a bit of an art. You need to really understand your marketplace. You need to understand the value of your program and then put a price on it.